Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this exciting discussion on the Redistricting Commission in Montgomery County. My name is Leslie Milano, and I am the new president of the Women's Democratic Club. We are so very excited to chat with you today. We are recording this session, so just so that you know, it will be made available on YouTube, on our YouTube channel subsequently. Thank you so much to all of the folks at WDC that have brought this presentation forward today, namely Scott Weber, who's our WDC Zoom host. You can see him up there in that corner, and Diana Conway and Joanne Corvos, Destiny Drake West, Lorna Ford, and so many others who were able to help us to bring this forward today. And we have our exciting guests here, and I'm going to introduce them in just a moment. Scott, will we go to the next slide then? So that we can just talk very quickly about WDC. So WDC, we are a vibrant network of politically active women and men. And right now we are actually in our membership drive. So now is a great time for you to renew your membership dues. I am doing that as well this month. And so that you know, we are over 60 years as a politically active, diverse club of women and men. And we do many, many things, most of which are free for our members. It's a fairly small dues package. So we would hope that you actually can do that this month so that we won't have to give you a call and sort of ask that you come on board again. So we know that you've been getting a lot of great information from WDC in the last year. And actually we have a slide on some of those fantastic educational events that we've had. If you would like to join one of the WDC committees, here are the various committees that we have. Namely, we are looking right now for someone to join Lorna in community education, someone to assist with finance, someone to assist with membership, and a tech person to work with our NEON system. So if you're interested in doing that, please reach out to me directly or anyone here on the WDC committees. And here's our executive team. We're very excited to be presenting to you today. Here's a list of all the recent WDC events that we have had. As you can see, many wonderful speakers, and we've touched lots of different topics from juvenile justice to issues that affect Maryland statewide. Very excited to have others here. Montgomery County Board of Elections. We have elected officials. We've really run the gamut there, and we have a lot more to share with you this year upcoming. So we have an exciting happy hour that is scheduled. It is an outdoor mask required, vaccine required event. And it's the first event that we've had since early 2020. So we're really excited. Your membership will need to be current. But if you would like to join us for that, just check our registration, which is in our weekly updates. If you have a question, we hope that you do during this session, you can submit your questions via chat to the Q&A. And that is someone who will be pulling that together, and we will be able to bring that forward to our speakers. So we have two speakers today who have a long history of work, volunteer work, and advocacy in Montgomery County. We're really pleased to welcome today Valerie Ervin. She is a member of the Montgomery County Commission on Redistricting. She's currently a special assistant in the office of the Chief of Staff for the Prince George's County Public Schools. She was the first African-American woman to serve on the Montgomery County Council and become council president. I actually have her bio here, and there is just a laundry list here of all of the numerous awards and recognitions that she has received, including the Most Powerful Woman Award for Washingtonian Magazine and Maryland's Top 100 Women multiple years. So we are very excited to have Valerie here with us today. Thanks so much, Valerie. Thank you. And Sam Statland. Also, a very long history here in Montgomery County. He's a member of the Montgomery County Commission on Redistricting. He is a current member of the Montgomery County Public Election Funding Board. He's a board member of the Greater Silver Spring Chamber of Commerce. Past chair of many, many boards. I also have his bio here, too much to even talk about today, but he was a former member of the Montgomery County Democratic Central Committee and has had a hand in many advocacy issues and coalitions over the years. So thanks so much, Sam, for being here with us today as well. So without further ado, going to hand this floor over to Valerie and Sam, and we will take your questions after their presentation.
Well, thank you all for letting us be here. It's always a pleasure to be before the WDC. And I'm most excited to be with Valerie. I'm actually her front man. So we'll go through some slides and Valerie and I will go back and forth. And there's some special slides that Valerie wanted to put into our presentation that deals with the demographics of the county, and she'll go over those with us. First slide, please. So we are the Montgomery County Redistricting Commission, and our job is to, next slide, please. Just hold. So what we have to do is, beginning in 2022, the number of council districts is going to increase from 5 to 7. Currently, we have, as you know, 5 districts with a population of a little over 1 million people, which means 200,000 people per district. And what we have to do is we have to increase the number of directly elected from in-district people to 7, with an average population of 150,000 people. So these districts are going to dramatically be reformed. I think this is one of the most important redistricting commissions we've ever had. You can see that what the population's requirements are, and redistricting takes place every 10 years. Next slide, please. So this is our mission. We recommend to the County Council a 7-district map from which voters in that district will have the opportunity to cast ballots for 1 commissioner and 4 large council members, or council members per district. The district's substantially 150,000 people in size. They're supposed to be compact and contiguous and not composed of land areas. Ethnicity, racial groups must be identified to avoid diminishing their votes. And we're not going to pack populations together in a single district or a split population in a manner that dilutes their impact on elections. Next slide, please. So what we're looking for, and hopefully what you're looking for, is we want to have equal population, which is required under the 14th Amendment. They must be compact. Usually a circle, a square, or a hexagon are the most compact districts. They must be contiguous. And we're considering minority representation, consideration of areas of population within minority areas. And we want to preserve the county's political subdivisions. So we're not going to split Gaithersburg in 2. We're not going to split Rockville in 2. And we want to preserve communities of interest, which are geographical areas, cities, regions, states, where residents have common political interests that don't necessarily coincide with the boundaries of a political subdivision, such as a city or county. Next slide, please. Planning Department. This slide speaks to where we stand now. We were expecting by September the 7th, well, yesterday actually, that when we receive the census data, and we're supposed to have that anytime this week. It has not come as of this morning, and that those figures from the census then have to be placed into a database that we have where we can work on current populations. Unfortunately, we're just still waiting for that data, and that data is most important because we can't draw maps without them. Next slide, please. This is our ask. This is what we need. We want you to help us. We want to know what communities should be located in a single district, what communities should be in separate districts, and what the boundaries of the districts are that you would recommend. I encourage everyone to go to our website. If you'll just Google in Redistricting Commission Montgomery County, you will receive a wealth of information, which includes our membership of the commission. It goes into everything that I'm telling you. I think this is a very open and transparent group of folks. We get along well together, and we have one common goal, and our common goal is a fair, open redistricting process that is extremely inclusive. So please visit our website. And on that website, there is on the lower left box, if you'll click the lower left box on the website, you will see that there is an information sheet. It's quite detailed. And that helps us set the ends of boundaries. That's our motto. This is what we're doing. I encourage you to go. I encourage you to pass the slideshow along to anyone you know. And if anyone would like a presentation, we would be pleased to do them. Next slides, please. Next slide, please. So at this point in time, I take off my hat and turn this presentation over to Valerie. This shows you this is the latest data that we have. We don't have census data, so you'll see where some slides are based on 2019, and we've updated to 2020 where as much as possible. Hi, Valerie.
Hey, Sam, how are you?
Very well.
Okay, I'm ready then for the next set of slides. Let me first start by saying so many of us who've lived in the county for a very long time know the county in terms of where we live and who our neighbors are and where our kids went to school. But because Montgomery County is about a 500 square mile county, larger than a few states, it is very diverse. And as this map shows here, so many of our residents of the county come from all over the world. And many of us who have had children in the school system can tell you that and how many languages are spoken in our school system. So this kind of diversity is so rich, and we're so lucky and so proud to be from an area of the United States where this kind of folks from all over the world is like known to us. It's not something that's unusual. Next slide. And so this is a slide showing us how folks are divided up in terms of their racial background. And so as you can see where the county was in 2000, there's going to be another slide that shows the county in a map, but how these, how we've sort of grown in our ability across the board to sort of spread out and kind of equalize in some ways the fact that there is not one majority in the county, which is another very unusual thing to see in a community. So where we might have started out with 59.5% non-Hispanic white, that number is at 40.6% now, and the other minority categories have grown. And so we don't have one specific, and you'll see this in other maps, as I've said, racial group that's dominating in the county. Next slide. So here is a map of population by place. And for those of you on the Zoom who know the county well, this is familiar to a lot of folks. And so you can see in the rural areas of the community are less populated, and you get more densely populated toward the center and on the edge of the county, the southeastern edge. And this is the growth by place in some of those very same areas. And some of the darker pink, you can probably see those areas are surrounded by like a cities like Tacoma Park or Rockville, Gaithersburg, Wheaton, those areas where there's more compact population. Next slide. And median age by place, I always thought this was very interesting in terms of how the county is distributed by age and by place. So we can see here the slide that says 67 to 79.7%. There are lots of folks in our community who are in that age bracket, and I found that to be a really interesting slide as we learn more about our community and where we're going to go into the future. So these census tracts are interesting, not just because of this slide, but what we're going to see after this slide, which shows us on a map where we're going. Like we spoke a little while ago about less racial predominance down county, eastern county, and along the I-270 corridor. And generally the county is becoming more diverse and no racial predominance. It's a very interesting thing to have, and that the tracts are becoming more minority majority. So we're going to have to find some new ways to describe what that actually is, but that's where we are right now. So back in 1990, I came to the county in 1987, and this is a snapshot in time of 1990, a predominant racial ethnic group census tract, which showed a white predominance in the county in the dark blue. So that was most of the county. And in 2000, we see the blue, dark blue area being sort of shared by the light blue and the yellow, especially the yellow on the far eastern portion of the county in the White Oak, Tacoma Park, Silver Spring area. And 2019, 2 years ago, we see that census tract map has shown a disbursement, really, of ethnic groups and racial groups across the county in all areas of the county. And predominant racial or ethnic group by census tract, you can see here, it has independent towns and villages in red, and you can see Rockville, Gaithersburg, down at the bottom, Bethesda, Tacoma Park. And in those census tracts, you can see where the predominance of white, predominance and majority. And then you start to ask yourself questions about how did this happen in the county? What drove it to become as racially diverse across the county? And there are many people who have lots of ideas about how that happened, but there is a lot of inward migration inside of Montgomery County. And there's a lot of migration in from Washington, D.C. in particular, because people are coming into the county to find affordable housing. That's one reason. And jobs are more prevalent inside the county in 2019, as opposed to the fact that many people traveled outside of the county to go to work. That's no longer the case. And the next slide. Again, we see that the over 65 population in the county is rising. Under 5 population is falling because birth rates are falling, not just here in Montgomery County, but across the nation. And that the younger population that we're seeing in the county is much more diverse than it has ever been. So the racial and ethnic categories are increasing in diversity across geographic areas, but there's still segregation along racial lines, and we can talk about that in a little bit. So how can you help? Again, I think Sam covered this very well already. What communities should be located in a single district? What communities should be in separate districts? And are there boundaries between districts that you would recommend? And not coming in as the commissioners, as we have been discussing for months now, is that we have lots of rules already before us, that all the districts have to remain compact, contiguous. We can't break apart municipalities. So there are lots of rules that we're bound by, and happy for it. And that's why this map making is an art, but it's a science as well. So as we get into the map drawing and the map making is when the 11 members of this commission, although we're getting along really well now, I can see a time when we have to agree and come to a consensus on some maps, to a map to the county council. We really have our work cut out for us because we're carving out 2 new geographic districts, not just 1, but 2. That is not an easy feat. And so we're going to be working really hard over the next 7-8 weeks to make sure that we're able to produce some maps inside the commission, as commissioners can look at these maps and determine the map that we will be recommending to the county council.
And if I may add, please, at this point in time, approximately 77,000 people have visited our website, which is quite a significant number. And the outreach part of our commission has now touched every part of the county. And we've held Zoom presentations throughout the county. Where we're lacking and where we can use your help is we would like to make more presentations in the Darnestown area, Poolsville area, Ag Reserve, Damascus, Laytonsville. So if any of you live in these areas, please let us know. The contact information is on the website, and we would be pleased to make a presentation. And I want to point out one other thing, that the process and time within the process to draw these districts is getting shorter and shorter. And it's really important that we have your input, because I want this, and other members of this commission really want this to be an open process and very inclusive of all of our citizens. And our commission is very unique. This is the first time that I can ever remember where the makeup of this commission does not have a majority party. We have 4 Democrats, 2 Republicans, 4 independents, a libertarian, and a member of the Green Party. So we are as diverse as our county is. And I encourage you to go to the website, make comments, and please pass these slides along. And we'd really like to go into those areas that I just mentioned. So if you can make a contact, have them contact me, and we'll set up a presentation. I guess it's time for question and answers.
One follow-up really quickly. Sam talked about the political diversity. There's also a great racial diversity as well on the commission. I was really proud to see who my colleagues are that I'm going to be making these very difficult decisions with. And so I think we represent the breadth of the community that we live in.
Thank you so much, both Valerie and Sam. That was a fantastic presentation, and we're excited to hear some questions from all of you. But before we do, I just want to mention that we have a few folks in the audience, elected officials. We have the former planning board member, Natalie Fanny Gonzalez, and we also have Mayor Jeffrey Slavin, who is the mayor of Somerset. We have a number of folks who are running for county council, and so thanks to all for joining us. But if I missed anyone else who is an elected official, please do just ping me so that I can recognize you. So I don't see any questions yet that have come in. Let me see. But I have a quick question here. Oh, we do. Let's go here. I'll ask my question after. So one question that we have is, please address in more detail how you are collecting data on communities of interest. If you could define again some examples of various communities of interest and how you will be incorporating communities of interest into your planning.
Valerie.
I will go first because I know Sam has a great answer for this too. But we presented at People's Community Baptist Church last week, and one of the questions was exactly this: what is a community of interest? And for me, since I live on the east side of the county, there is a community that's mostly historically African American called Tamarack. It's not an incorporated city or town, but it is a community that we do not want to split up. And the reason it's a community of interest, it's its geographic pocket, and it's known to everyone who lives there as Tamarack. And there are many communities like that in Montgomery County that don't have a mayor or a city council, but they are considered a community of interest. A community of interest could just be many people who live in a geography, who share maybe a church or a synagogue. So it's more complicated than people think. And that's why I'm so glad we have the commission that we have, because geographically we live all over the county and we know the community very well. And so I'm going to turn it over to Sam, who has a really great example of another community of interest that most people will recognize who live in Montgomery County.
Why, it's Leisure World. Leisure World, 20 years ago was one precinct in Montgomery County. And as you know, it had the highest attendance of any Democratic club in the county. And when I was chair of the Board of Elections, we had a couple of problems. Fire and Rescue is very, very concerned that on election day, they could not adequately service any kind of a medical situation within Clubhouse 1 at Leisure World. So we split that into 2 precincts. Today, it is 4 precincts. Those precincts will remain together, and that is a community of interest. Our data comes from the census. The census is the driver of the data. The census is very, very extensive. And as you know, we had problems with the last administration doing all kinds of things to undercount and minimize the count. We're here within Montgomery County. We did a bang up job of going into the weeds, getting as many people as we can within the census count. So when we get our final demographics from the Bureau of the Census, it will go into ethnicity, where people live. It will go into age. It will go into economics and income, et cetera, et cetera. Any figure that you could possibly think that you want to know about people will be included within the data that we have to draw these districts. The Board of Elections asked us at an early presentation early on to keep the current precinct boundaries in line so that we're not going to split precincts. And a precinct could be a community of interest. Somerset is a community of interest. So all that goes into drawing these maps. You can help, however, because we don't know what your community of interest is. And we want to know what your community of interest is. And the only way we're going to find out is if you tell us. So go to our website, fill out the form. It gets really into the weeds as far as where you live and what you consider a community interest. And that will give us a much more accurate and reflective map of the county.
So the next question also leans on Leisure World a bit, but it's a little bit more pointed in the influence of county council members. So I'll just read this to you because I think it's worth addressing, even though you've just spoken about Leisure World. So please address how county council members in the past pick their voters, including carving Leisure World out of Nancy Navarro's district. In your answer, please address concerns that officials picking their voters results in vastly different borders of the 5 council districts and the 5 Board of Ed districts. And since this commission was appointed by incumbents, how will it prevent this type of thing in 2022?
Valerie?
Yeah, I served on the county council 10 years ago. I was council president during the last redistricting, and the council does not have any interaction with members of this commission. They didn't 10 years ago, and they don't now. And so the only interaction that the commission is going to have with the county council is when we send them the map that we're recommending. So I will start with that. Secondarily to that, we in Montgomery County can be really proud that we're not using the map as a political, like as a weapon. We never have. And so the implication is that somehow the elected officials are picking their districts. That is absolutely not the case.
And in fact, early on within our criteria, we all decided and voted upon not to take into consideration where council people live in drawing these. Now, whether that'll make a difference or not, I don't know. But we're certainly not going to have a legislative 18, or I'm sorry, legislative district, I think it was 14, where an arrow came into District 18 so that a member of the House of Delegates still remained in the 14th district. You are not going to see gerrymandering within our maps.
One more thing, I'm sorry to stay on this because it's a very important point. The state could be accused of gerrymandering where the county could never be accused of that, because our state map was one of the 2 most gerrymandered maps in the country. And clearly politics is written all over that. But at the local level, you can be assured that this is not happening at the Montgomery County Commission, and I don't believe it's happening at the County Council.
Okay, thank you.
And we also signed a pledge, each one, that we would not interact with any person running for office, and that we ourselves are not running for office. So that influence also is not a part of our decision making.
That's helpful to know. Thank you. I do want to also acknowledge Kathleen Connor, who is here. She's a WDC member and also here on behalf of Rep. Jamie Raskin. So thanks so much, Kathleen. And the next question that we have here is, input from the public is of course helpful, but realistically, I would expect a lot of people may not feel comfortable. They are more likely to react to draft maps. When would those be ready, and how will people have the chance to offer feedback?
That depends. We're waiting for the census to come. Right now, what we've been doing for weeks is the county has provided us with a tool that enables us to play around drawing maps. On occasion, we've shared them. We actually shared them once on our website, and unfortunately, people thought those were the maps, but they're not. You know, it's like it's a play tool for us to learn how to draw maps. That's what we're working on now. When the census data comes in, you will see them published. They may be published, or there may be maps available on the 23rd, which is our next meeting, again, dependent upon the census. They certainly will be there the first week of October. And we will hold public hearings. We're going to hold at least 2 or 3. Once we are finished and we present our map to the county council, the council then has actually 90 days to decide whether to accept our map or not accept our map. If they do nothing, our map stands. Can they draw their own maps? Yes. Whose word is final? It's theirs.
Great.
So they'll be up soon, folks. I encourage you, visit our website. And as I've said before, out of 1 million people, approximately 77,000 have visited our website. That's 7.7%. I hope we get up to at least 100,000, which would be 10%. Because the words that I hate to hear, and most politicians hate to hear on any kind of a given issue or political task, is, gee, I didn't know about that. That's why we want to spread the word far and wide to get community participation.
So, I think Valerie, you're on mute.
A really important point here is that the last time we met, which was last week, there was a recommendation. Because of COVID, we have not been able to meet in person, which is really slowing down, in my opinion, the ability for commissioners to sit together and work on maps at the same time. 10 years ago, I saw how that worked, both at the state level and at the county level. Because we're all in our own homes on Zoom meetings, it's very difficult to create maps that other people can react to and say, yeah, I like this, let's move that, let's do this, let's do that. So we're trying to get commissioners to meet in groups of 3 or 4 to work on maps, possibly in person, so that we have something to compare and contrast with each other as a commission before we send any maps out to the public. We haven't been able to do that yet, but between now and the end of the month, that's what we're going to try to do.
Okay. Thank you. I have a couple more questions here. If you do have a question, please put it in the chat. We are moving through those quickly. One question here, it seems like a quick question. Would, for example, White Oak be considered a community of interest, or would East County would that be considered a community of interest, since so many of the issues are very specific to that area?
Well, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I don't believe that East County could be considered a community of interest, because within the East County, there are several communities separate, which could be considered communities of interest. So East County is a large swath of the eastern part of Montgomery County, and I'm not sure that we would be able to call the entire East County a community of interest.
However, if you live in the East County, and I must say that we've probably done more presentations in the East County, up to 29 corridor, than possibly many other communities. These guys want to have input. They feel underrepresented. Not only do they feel represented politically, but economically, socially, educationally, for a whole variety of reasons. So, and there's our community of interest forum, guys. And if you can fill this out and it gets into detail, this would really help us.
Great.
But at the end of the day, really quickly, for whoever asked that question, which is a great question, these maps are still going to be pretty much, this is a numbers game. So when you look at Montgomery County, we showed you all the maps of the growth of the county. These districts have to look pretty much the same in terms of how many residents live there. So when you look at the map and you see the pockets of a lot of growth in the county, we're going to have to look at where it makes sense based on where those numbers are. And we don't know yet because we haven't started practicing on the maps, but that's going to weigh in very heavily in terms of, if you're going to create 2 brand new geographic districts, you're not going to go where there's not enough people to support that. So, it's a mathematical equation first, and then all the other items that we're discussing now, including communities of interest and all the other things we're discussing, that also goes in over the top of it. So it's going to be a very complicated process. Everyone's not going to be happy with it, because when you move one line, you're going to move another line. So that's what I think people need to really understand, that this is a process that's going to really create some amount of change in the community in terms of who they are represented by.
And
so we're going to go from 5 districts that contain 1 million people to 7 districts that contain 150,000 people. Obviously, each district mathematically will lose 50,000 residents within population. So you have to adjust, taking into consideration what Valerie and I have been talking about in creating these districts. Again, going to the goals of our commission, which is balance and fairness, equality, giving people an opportunity to run for office, et cetera, et cetera.
So this is sort of a quick question. Will boundaries be drawn primarily by computer modeling or human decision?
Well, they're going to be drawn.
I would say both.
Yeah.
I think the computer modeling helps us to get the maps, and then the rest of it, I said it was an art and a science. That's the science, and then the art is overlaying that map with all the other concerns that are being addressed on this Zoom meeting right now.
So picking up on that just a little bit, and as Valerie mentioned, we're a very diverse commission living in all parts of the county. Some of us have walked this entire county, street by street, block by block, because when you get down to the finite lines are going to be based upon, if we comply with the Board of Elections ask, is the edge of a precinct. We're not going to divide a precinct, but certainly we would like that to be the edge of a district, to keep that in mind. So, and when you think about that, and I'm going to go back to Leisure World again, there's 4 precincts within one community of interest. That same thing exists in the Tamarack area that Valerie mentioned, in the Kengar area, up in Albany towards Sandy Springs. Certainly the people who live in the Ag Reserve feel that they are, a community of interest, but but look at their population. So you can see how the numbers do one thing, and it's the artistry of edging things out to the fine lines that will create the final map.
There's 2 questions here about schools. One is, will the commissioners make an effort to recognize school catchment areas as communities of interest? And the second part of that, how will school service areas figure into choosing new district lines? Sort of very similar, but would you speak to those?
I don't think they do. In my recollection, schools have not come up at all. If you ask someone, for example, in the town of Kensington, where their kids go to school, the obvious answer is that my kids go to Einstein. But the fact is that the kids who live within the township of Kensington go to Walter Johnson. Just to give you an example.
Yeah, school catchment areas are not part of our charge.
Okay. Next question, if Rockville and Gaithersburg and other independent municipalities will not be carved up, will that conflict with the mandate to have equal populations in each district?
Well, welcome to drawing districts. One of the first early on questions is should Gaithersburg and Rockville be in the same district? If they're included in the district, that affects how the maps are drawn. If they're separately, that also affects how the maps are drawn. I would ask you to look at a clock with 12 o'clock, of course, at the top. And let's just say that we're going to combine those 2 jurisdictions in one district. Well, then the population for the rest of the district shifts back to the left counterclockwise towards 9 o'clock. But if they're separate, then the population shifts towards 3 o'clock. So you can see how that the combining different districts or different municipalities affects the overall shape, content, makeup, and percentage of populations within the districts.
Next question, what languages and materials are you using, and what publications, radio, TV, etc., to get the word out? And what have been the biggest challenges so far?
Our website is translated into Spanish. There's a little button you can hit Spanish. And those are the 2 predominant languages that we're using. But if you look at the diversity of this, I've done meetings where I've had an Ethiopian interpreter. And I'm sure and we've had meetings that involved Dean Ahmad, who is Islamic and speaks different Arabic languages. So from that point of view, we have diversity within our group where we can provide language, but the printing is in Spanish and in English. And what was the second part of that question?
The second part was, what have been the biggest challenges so far?
The biggest challenge from my perspective is the census data. We're waiting on pins and needles for the census data. It's getting late within the process. Earlier on, we were even concerned that the primary map be moved because of that. But it looks like we're back on track now. But as far as I'm concerned, right now, we're 2 days behind on the census data. And once this data comes to us, it has to be put in a format that we can use to draw maps, which can take another week. And time is precious. Time is of the essence right now. So that's number 1. Number 2, it's reaching out to the far county, to the areas of the county that I mentioned to get participation from citizens. Poolsville, Darnestown, Laytonsville, Sandy Spring, all the fringe areas of those fringe areas of the county have been the most difficult to reach. And how do we reach out? We reach out any way possible. Our biggest source of reach out is to hold these commission forums and spark somebody's interest to say, hey, Sam, Valerie, can you please do a presentation for us, which we will be glad to do. And that leads to more presentations. We've done about 50 presentations so far. I think we have 15 pending and another 10, in the works. So that's a lot of presentations, and that's getting the word out. But what I would like to see is hold, of course, 100 meetings, and out of a million population, I'd like to get in front of 200,000. We're hoping to get to 100. And I don't know how that compares with other outreach, but I think we've probably exceeded outreach in that we've touched every area of the county. We've touched every major group within the county, a lot of minority groups within the county. And it's a very fulfilling process. And I'm very pleased with what we've done so far to reach out.
And I follow up really quickly. I know we're trying to get through this. I am most concerned about the candidates who are going to be running in this next cycle. And so because the census data has been coming in drips and drabs, folks are waiting if they have to figure out if they're going to apply for public financing or where their districts are going to be located. So you can't even determine what you're going to run for and where, depending on how these maps end up. At the end of the day, the council still has to make its final decision. So the longer we are put off, the further back this is going to be pushed, and we're going to run into some very serious deadlines on behalf of people who are actually running for office. So for those of you on the line who are watching right now, I feel your pain because this is something that we did not create, but we're going to do our very best to get these maps done as quickly as we can so that the council can make the decisions they need to make.
And I want you to know that early on in the process, some of us were concerned about this very issue. And we went to the State Board of Elections and have in writing from them basically the following. If you're running, especially a publicly funded campaign, open your campaign account, start raising money. You can do that regardless of what your final district is going to be. And when you open your account, publicly funded or not, on a drop-down screen, it asks you, what district are you running from? And you could put any district number in there that you want. I think there's also a box that might say undetermined. But by February, and I believe the date is February the 22nd, which of course is long ways past where we are right now, you'll be able to go back into your screen and select the district that you're going to be in. So that you should be able to go in before the end of the year, go to your campaign committee and pick exactly what area you're running into, and you won't be penalized. You won't go through some of the stuff that we went through last time on public funding. And of course, if you're running a regular campaign using your own funds or solicited funds, that little part's not applicable. To reiterate, open the account, raise the money, follow our redistricting commission, take a look at maps, see what you can do. And once these maps are published, go back into your website and pick your district.
So I have 3 more questions. I'm going to do rapid fire questions and give me the shortest answer that you can so we can get all 3 in if possible. We'll see what we can do. One was, yes, certainly East County is too large to qualify as an area of interest, but what about a community like White Oak? Would that qualify as a community of interest?
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible. I think it's something we'll probably be discussing and looking at as a commission.
Next question, the Board of Ed provides materials in more than English and Spanish. Could you replicate potentially their outreach methods via radio and media, et cetera?
I would love to do that. Excellent question. We were talking about this earlier, and I know large swaths of the community still speak Amharic. I know at MCPS, they have all of the language covered. And so I think we should do our best to do more than just Spanish.
And one last question here. It looks like you are not looking at school or state legislative boundaries. What about congressional districts?
No congressional. We are strictly focusing on the districts within Montgomery County. And there is a redistricting commission set up by the state on the federal districts. And we don't consider school boundaries within our task.
And actually, we got all of them in. You are both wonderful hosts here. I have actually one more little one here since we have 2 more minutes. Just ask you very quickly. We have someone here, Natalie, who's running in District 4. She was told that once the districts are set, that she would be assigned to the district where she lives. Does that sound accurate to you?
Well, once the districts are set, her address will be within one of those districts.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, that sounds great. What can I say? This was wonderful. I have learned so much here, and I really appreciate all your time. And on behalf of WDC, thank you so very much for coming and talking today with us about the Redistricting Commission. I've wanted to personally meet both of you for a while, so I'm sort of, very excited that we had you both here today. So thanks very much. Wanted to remind people that we have our happy hour on Saturday. Yes, Saturday, September 18th, and we're very excited. We would love for you to join us. And also, it's a wonderful time to get involved on our urgent issues, voting rights, abortion rights, climate change, and asking people for, generally want to know what your ideas are for programs. We do have another one coming up very soon. We haven't even announced it yet, so announcing it right now that Nadia Hashimi is going to be speaking with us in late September about Afghanistan, and she will be talking a little bit about her new book as well. She was just really featured on NPR as well as Bethesda Magazine, and she is a local to Montgomery County. We're excited to welcome her at the end of September, so look out for that in your email. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been a wonderful hour to be with you, and we look forward to being with you again.
Bye-bye. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.